bây giờ chắc chắn người sai phong đạo Esther, giờ mình yêu cái nào thì cũng cho bây giờ cái phong đạo Esther nó, nếu nó bây giờ sai trong Txawj hay trong Xyooj. So this morning we will continue our study in the book of Esther, and we will be diving into chapters 6 and 7 this morning. Let me give us a quick recap of what we studied last week. Chapter 5, if we were here last week, we got a little two people, two totally different plans. For Esther, strategic in her approach to the king in executing her plan. Although the king asked multiple times, "What is your request, Queen Esther?" she held off. She wanted to make sure that everything was right before she made her request. But as she executes her plan, let us not forget that she is totally reliant upon God to change the heart of the king. Secondly, we see in chapter 5 also, we see Haman in his plan to eliminate Mordecai. His hatred for Mordecai has reached a point of no return, and the only thing that he wants to do is to kill him. Let us remember that Mordecai is second in command and that he has everything that a person would want. A beautiful wife, I believe, kids, wealth. But again, the plan to murder Mordecai is on the table. But then as we dive into chapter 6 and 7 here, we see Haman's plan to eliminate or exterminate the Jews, and Mordecai will ultimately backfire because God is in total control of what is taking place. And chapter 6 here, church, marks a turning point for the Jews. Chapter 6 here marks a turning point for the Jews. If we remember what Mordecai said in chapter 4, verse 14, it rings true. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. Church, God is moving the pieces into place to make sure the Israelites will be delivered, to make sure the Messianic line will be preserved. Understand that, church. That God is moving. He is orchestrating everything to make sure that the Israelites will be delivered, and ultimately to make sure that the Messianic line will be preserved. And so 2 points for us this morning that I want us to see. Number 1, reward, and number 2, evil exterminated. Point 1 that I want us to see first, reward. In chapter 5, it seems as if Esther is executing her plan well, setting herself up to win favor. But again, as we turn into chapter 6 here, we see the focus, church. The author brings us back to focus on God who has been working this whole time. So how does this take place? Or what will God do in chapter 6? When we dive into chapter 6, we see that the king enjoys the banquet. But that night, verse 1 tells us in chapter 6, the king cannot fall asleep. 也比如寫住創造人那樣，比不那麼大家佢萬事滿咯，Esther做麼好，萬事不知做主。When we read this and we think about many times, and I think about many times, there are times where I struggle to fall asleep at night too. right? And many times it's because my mind is racing. I'm thinking about many things. And so it prevents me from falling asleep. And so there is usually a reason behind it. But when we look at the text, when we focus strictly right on the text clearly or simply states to us, the king could not fall asleep. So let us, church, let us not try to read into the text and put a reason in there, okay? Let us not do that. Let us not read into the text and come up with a reason as to why the king could not fall asleep that night. Remember, the author is writing it in this way to help us see who is actually orchestrating these events out. And so know this, a sleepless night by the king plays an important role in the deliverance of God's people. Because during the night, as the king is unable to fall asleep, he asks one of his attendants, read the book. Take out a book that records my reign and read it to me. Attendant, lu nheng, I pom da gu ka tu la bo ding ha ka tu cho yang gu nu tao o la ha mo nyong chu lu de thai gu nu gang de ho na ya. Ai be mo shai ka gu lu nheng pom da no tu gu nheng no ja le nheng chu tao gu Mordecai tao bang wan zu. As the attendant is reading this, something all of a sudden brings of interest to the king. As the attendant reads about the time where Mordecai exposes the assassination plan of the king by his two guards. The king asked the attendant in verse 3, what honor and recognition has Mordecai received? Nothing has been done for him, his attendant answered. Van zu not zu khana o chunin yuka ni chale no ate pe tao mot lan chi cho tu ton ne no ku pang ku na ma ya pe tao mot lan chi chunu tu ku ni na ni sa pe tao ot lan chi cho Mordecai la pe tao mot lan chi cho Mordecai le ko pe tao tao una ya tao ku mo tu lu pang van zu sha jong han yan yin cho van zu mo complete lo mo kong there is always a reward for that person who helps the king, who is faithful to the king. And so for Mordecai to not have received anything for revealing, for exposing this plan, the king now wants to make it right. The king wants to make this situation right. We move on to verse 4. Then the king asks, who is in the court? The court, yeah. Who is in the court? Lo and behold, Haman appears. Why? The day before, Haman, Haman samu tho van zu, go van zu mo Mordecai tlai to. If Haman sale so to ge ku tlai toning to na ya. De you must stand the jong Haman la ying pu chi ta mo ha le, vi de nu lu sha gu nu sa mo tho van zu to yang shan zu ha, go ja le mo Mordecai tlai to. And so Haman is up early because in excitement of wanting or desiring to have his enemy killed, he is up bright and early and desiring to come into the presence of the king for this request. As all of this is taking place, church, I hope you guys are seeing that these events that are taking place, that is happening in this order, is not mere coincidence. But that, again, God is moving every piece into its place. Cú sáng của bé tao tao này à, khó cú ham mồm lục nó, cú sáng của bé tao tao thì cho cứ đây dạng cứ chữ sĩ lên nó, chỉ là như làm chữ sĩ thôi. Đó là một ý tưởng, cứ có văn chữ, nhưng bằng lên nó rồi, anh ta lại mong lại lên văn chữ tông bằng rồi, okay? That God has planned this, and God is actually executing His plan. And so as Haman goes into the presence of the king, before Haman even is able to speak a word, the king asks Haman, what should be done to the man that the king delights to honor? What should be done to the man that the king delights to honor? In asking this, Haman on his high horse's pride, thinking, who else would the king honor besides me? I'm second in command, right? And so in this, Haman forgets about Mordecai. Haman doesn't care about Mordecai anymore. Haman answers the king, and in verses 7 through 9, Haman explains to the king, this is how you should honor the man or the person whom you delight in. And as Haman goes about advising the king tells Haman, do exactly what you said to Mordecai. Oh, nói lại cái tao hạ cho Mordecai nè. Yeah. And so in verse 11, Haman got the robe and the horse. He robes Mordecai, led him on a horseback throughout the city, proclaiming to him, this is what is done to the man the king delights to honor. Wow. One night changed the outlook of everything. Understand what has taken place, church. What has taken place. Again, Haman's plan was to have Mordecai hang in the morning, to have him killed in the morning. But think about this, church. The people that could have helped Mordecai did not know of the plan. Esther didn't know what was going to take place. And if we read through chapter 6, Esther is not even named. Is not even mentioned in chapter 6. The king doesn't know about this plan of Mordecai. Mordecai himself doesn't know. Who only knows? God only knows what is taking place. God only knows. Ya pe mo shai zhong ne ya. Du ku yo ban dao Mordecai. Na ma ya Esther. Da shi Esther du chi bao zu. Lu hao pa ku Haman ban ku sang mo Mordecai lai to nu ha. Van zu la du chi bao Mordecai, the king du chi bao le. Du bao ya ling tu se. Ya van chu ngen gao cha le bao se. And so again, we see that shift taking place because the text tells us Mordecai receives the long-awaited reward that is due to him. But yet in his reward, we see the downfall then of Haman. Mordecai 到在你很给住了，但是论看 Mordecai 到在很给住呢，得被捕，他的 Haman 又不救了。Verse 12 and 13. After Mordecai returns to the king's gate, Haman rushed home with his head covered in grief and told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that has happened to him. His advisors and his wife, Zeresh, said to him, since Mordecai, before whom your downfall has started, is of Jewish origin, pay attention to that, church, is of Jewish origin, you cannot stand against him. You will surely come to ruin. Remember the night before, what was the advice or what was advised to him by his friends and his wife? You hate Mordecai so much, Go build a gallows and have that person hang. Go and request the king to have Mordecai hang in the morning. Yet the following day, they saw the events taking place, and now actually his wife and friends are now prophesying his downfall. Ngai ko o hang ngai ko pe na ya. Tờ ngai chi bên yu can onde na ma ni cho phong yu he men cho phong yu ha he men tu ko pu ha ko he men ja zo e dun ye e be ki mo ta van zu mo Mordecai glai ko to se de shi inu ta kang na se bo bu de gu chu shi no bo bu de gu ha happen nu ho na ya bo ja le ha cho Mordecai ta có yêu sứ là sao? Giờ tôi nói giờ ít từ yêu đại thì có chỉ riêng là nó có yêu sứ là sao? Essentially, if we want to break it down, essentially what they said to Haman is, Haman, you're dead. You messed with the wrong people. You messed with the wrong people. You went against the wrong people, Haman. And so we must then ask, church, why is God so faithful to this people group? What you died or not? Go pay to how go pay when Jane the paying Paula via the you died, no, you want you chant. They are God's people, and God made a covenant with them. Vạn chủ yên cho lu cho bố là hành chủ bố này ya. And thầu cứ bên nhìn tới dạng nó mà the Abrahamic covenant ought to echo loud and clear for us. The lu cứ vạn chủ tao cho chế cho Abraham mà bây giờ chúng yêu can giống này ya. In gai cứ cú sáng nhìn cho bên whoever curses you, I will curse. Cho tôi nên cứ ô phe cho có cú yêu phong chỉ giống cho này. Vạn chủ yên hạ lại họ cho Abraham. And so even though you're say yeah, want you chant the name chin no want you lu chin yang yin cho want you mo pon da da no lu de chai ku want you tao yo che bu che bo no lo want you yin chin yang yin cho bo. And so although we see that the nation of Israel is rebellious, unfaithful, and were in exile during this time, God remained faithful to his covenant with Abraham. And so again, we see all of this working out, all the events working out, because God is still in control, because God still remembers his covenant, his promise he made to his people, specifically to Abraham. And so then as we learn this, what then is an application for us? One takeaway for us here in chapter 6 is an easy one. Faithfulness to the king, we will be rewarded. If we are faithful to the king, we will be rewarded. Think about this. Mordecai was faithful to King Xerxes, yet he had to wait for King Xerxes to remember what he did in order for him to receive his reward. But church, rest assured, our King, King Jesus, will not forget. He remembers. It is written down. It is written down. Revelation 22:12, look what our King says. Behold, I am coming soon. My reward is with me, and I will give to everyone according to what he has done. Yep, mo shai. Ik ha ku sang ko be kai tao. Ya da ya ben yang yin cho be tu Chu Yesu be yin tao ngong ge ju. Tu Chu Yesu yin yo mong ge ju chu be. Be tu bu da Mordecai chi tao ni khang ge ju ke tan shi ha ya. Ni tao ta kang ku van zu yu kang. Họ cứ Mordecai tao ô văn dữ mà lên mua thằng gây ju cho Mordecai. Ê có bên yêu cá thì bên giang gì cho bên tu Chúa Giêsu. Nữ nhân chỉ nói cá bên thằng giang gì cứ bên ô chuyện này. Nữ nhân yếm ba nữ thằng gây ju cứ nữ mua cho bên. But I must ask, as I read this, that Christ, yes, He is coming soon. His reward is with Him, and that He will give according to all that we have done. I must ask this, will our works pass the test? You pass the test because once you do, in catch better, once you sheep better than it will be tested, church. The Bible talks about the judgment seat of Christ. And this is where believers will go before Christ and our works will be tested and to see if they will stand. And it will be tested by fire. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 12 through 15, it says this. If anyone builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, or straw, their work will be shown for what it is, because the day will bring it to light. It will be revealed by fire, and the fire will test the quality of each person's work. If what has been built survives, the builder will receive a reward. If it is burned up, the builder will suffer loss, but yet will be saved, even though as one escaping through the flames. Be faithful. Bang jo jong thao ka tao I khatlei nu lan bang ko jong cha tung gen yu ka da kho ku ko on no ya ka mo pu cho van chung ngan gao se. Be faithful, church. Prepare well. Prepare well. Don't be lazy, because remember that you are serving God alone. What you are doing is for the Lord. If we are a believer, then there are works that has been prepared for you to do. Now, there is no such thing, church. But don't do. I don't know why. Busy Bé hạt ta bé hạt ít tuần chênh, yêu gan giống hạt ta, vạn chữ yên ban lên nụ cho có ô lại nè, vạn chữ sáng của có lũ ô lũ gan yên ô hạt lên nụ cứ vạn chữ tông ban cho có, gan yên cho vạn chữ. The work is there, church. The Lord has prepped work beforehand for you to serve. But yet many times we see our elders, our pastors, we call, can you hold this position this upcoming year? I'm too busy. I can't. There's too much going on in my life. I can't do it. Year after year, we hear the same excuse. And that's why, sorry, to be honest, that's why we have people wearing so many hats when that should not be. That should not be. If we believe that this word is true, the word tells us work has been prepared beforehand for you to do, then let us rise up. Let us take hold of that work and let us do it faithfully, church. Let us do it faithfully. If an unbelieving king, church, if an unbelieving king knows how to reward and honor those who are faithful to him, imagine a faithful king. A king who knows everything. A king who is in control of everything. Imagine the reward that will be given to those who are faithful to him, who is willing to do the work of the kingdom. Imagine the reward that is due to that person. Vạn sự cứ tôi chỉ ở từng gì tôi bao mo. It will complete. It will reward. Gây dù cho tôi nên cũng gian dành cho nữa. It bé tôi vạn sự. Tôi bao cho yan so chang. Tôi chỉ cho yan so chang. It will bên gian dành cho nữa. Bé hiện tại còn gây dù cái dòng chang. 我看见有被都打很累如何呢？反正对主所应教路就别的，古应有么去没有认定啊，认定我。So church, again, I want to encourage us. Work tirelessly. Be faithful. For the reward is Christ and with Christ. Let our work, church, withstand the test of fire. Point 2, evil is finally exterminated. Haman do chi mo shi ho yu lu san po de lu no yo min le ja. Sin ni do jiao ma jiao mong no Esther zhong mo le. Haman does not even have time to process the words that were spoken to him, that your downfall is imminent. After those words, the attendants come and takes Haman away for Esther's banquet. And finally, the long-awaited banquet we've been waiting for, we've been studying this whole time, we are finally there. What will happen at this banquet? Verse 2 of chapter 7. Again, the king asked queen, what is your petition? It will be given to you. What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom, it will be granted. No, Esther, God san tao tan chi. God san tao tan chi. Finally, at this moment, remaining silent is no longer an option for Esther. Esther yokha. Esther yoha cho vanzu haku Esther santao yotlanchi. Esther reveals her petition, and don't miss how wise she is with her words. Verses 3 and 4 of chapter 7. Esther answers, if I have found favor with you, O king, and if it pleases your majesty, grant me my life. This is my petition. And spare my people. This is my request. For if I and my people have been sold for destruction and slaughter and annihilation, if we had merely been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept quiet, because no such distress would justify disturbing the king. Finally, again, and I continue to reiterate this, finally, Esther identifies with her people. And look at how Esther approaches the king in her request. She doesn't talk about right and wrong. She does not mention anything like that. Again, we should know because of what type of king this is. But she puts the interest of the king ahead of hers. If I have found favor with you. Because her point, church, her point, her petition, an attack on me is an attack on you, king. An attack on me is an attack on you. Verses 5 and 6, the king asks, who is this person? Esther no, Esther Esther Haman. Haman is the guilty party. Yes, in your Haman, does she to kuchotya your vanzu? Does she Esther chieta your di call vanzu your call? Does she Haman? I mean Esther hita your Haman. Haman your go to him your. Haman is the enemy. What an eye opener for the king. The one that he appointed second in command is the enemy of his queen. He can't undo it though, church. He can't undo the edict that was decreed a couple chapters ago that we went through. Again, right? Remember that if he reverses, his reputation is on the line because what he has decreed has come into law. He can't reverse it. And so the king has a dilemma. How do I punish this person who came up with this plot? Yet it was I who approved of it. How do I punish this person? Cho trai lo sau khano na ya cứ cúi ya tu cho trai ha na ya cúi cho gì cho nhiều lết chàng vì ta tu ya cúi ya tu cho trai này. What is the king to do? Luckily, Haman solves this issue for the king. We read that as the king returns from the garden, Haman was falling on the couch where Esther is reclining. The king exclaimed, "Will he even molest the queen while she is in my house?" Haman solves the issue for the king. What the king saw, the king sealed or made his decision. It was made known to the king that a gallows was built, meant to hang Mordecai in the morning. But yet, here we see what Haman built for Mordecai, Haman will now be hung on it. ก็คือ Haman โซ่ถึงเกตใกล้สารใกล้ Mordecai เท่าฉันรู้หอนะยะยมุนทวันสิหนึ่งก็เปล่าสมองตะกังสิ Haman ยอดดีก็ยอดเจ้ามันใกล้ We see again, I hope church กูสร้างกูเป๊ะผู้โชยังกูชื่อชีนะน้องนะยะเชื่อแต่นิรันดร์ชื่อชีสิ God, church, God is in control of all of this. It is working out accordingly. And so what can we learn then in chapter 7 as the story continues to unfold? The Jews faced an evil plan. Their future looks bleak. If we're taking score, it is not looking good for the Jews. Let's be honest. It is not looking good because everything is against them. And so what do we learn or what can we take away? Thảo cứ bé bù kế phê kế cả. Ý dòng lấy thô yàng. Chỉ mong dòng cho bé tấn dây này. We need a reminder like this. We come to need a reminder as the Jews was reminded in chapter 7 here. That wickedness will not prevail. Church, wickedness will not prevail. Look at Haman's life. He was second in command, but he used it to do evil. He used it to do evil, and specifically against God's people. And look what happened. He was destroyed. And so, church, as we read this, as we see this, it ought to comfort us in the promises of God that evil at the end will not prevail. That even though right now it may look bleak for us, that again, if we look at the scoreboard, evil is probably up ahead. And Christians are probably scoring at 0, right? Nothing is going against us. Laws are going against us as Christians. And it doesn't look good for us. But know this again, evil will not prevail. Rest in the promises of God, church. If there are times where we doubt because we look at the evilness in this world, if there are times of doubt, let us come to remember, or let us go and read the book of Revelation. Church, the book of Revelation tells us King Jesus wins. If he wins, what do we have to be afraid of? What then are we concerned about? If the king that we believe in, the king that we follow wins, what is there to be afraid of? Yes, again, even though it may look bleak, but Jesus wins. Revelation 20, verse 9 and 10 says this: they, and those are the people who have allied themselves with Satan, marched across the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of God's people, the city he loves. But fire came down from heaven and devoured them. And the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet had been thrown. They will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Txawj đến Jane. Nếu văn chủ tự lo hạ khá cho bé hạt Chúa Giêsu yên. Bé giờ Txawj lan chi. Giờ giờ bé bù kế phê kế ca tàn xì nó là bé giờ mua kế Txawj ở lan chi. Giờ bé tu Chúa Giêsu yên lại. Chỉ mua kế chai là mua đến Jane. Văn chủ tự lo yên hạ khá cho bé Jane. Let us not fear, church. And so I encourage us with this: stand firm then, church, in the faith. Stand firm. Chỉ ở tập mua cái phê cái cá lết nó cái xì xa nó để ở chỗ bé bông. Yo ocho bé để cho kinh doanh bảo chế. Chỉ ở lại họ. Để bé sợ cho con bé做kinh doanh.做kinh doanh佢vẫn chủ到補cho bé. Để bé sợ cho con. Ít giờ yo mua cái phê cái cá lấy tiền, bé cho chỉ找lấy tiền à. Để bé sợ cho con. Bé yên yo cho nó kinh doanh nè. Chỉ sĩ à khá cho bé để bé kinh doanh nè. Yên yo cho cái chỉ cho. Bé don't do yo cho mà to nè. Vì đó bên trên tu Chúa Giêsu nè. Đó là sợ cho khó. Sợ cho khó chú tàu cơ. Làm gì用yên chỉ yên. Bé tu Chúa Giêsu yên yo yên sư sợ cho khó. Church, young people, stand firm in the faith. The Bible is clear. We will suffer. We will go through pain. Many of us, the book of Revelation tells us, many of us will lose our life because we are followers of Jesus Christ. And so let it not be that when we come and we face those, that we are going to walk away from the faith. And that we're going to say, it is not worth it to follow Jesus because my life is at stake. I will not lose my life to follow Jesus Christ. Let it not be that, church. Let it be that we will say, even if I lose my life, I will follow my Jesus, King Jesus, till the end. If it costs my life, so be it. Let it glorify God. Let us, church, stand firm in the faith. And so let this be a reminder to us. Evil will not prevail. And if we know that, then, church, stand firm. Stand firm in the faith till the end. And so that was Txawj bên nó. Again, verse 4, chapter 4, verse 14. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will rise from another place. To Mordecai hacho Esther hata. Yaka yo nyochi otlanchi yo mo itu. Ke yulupan haluita. The doning you die. And we see here, we get to chapter 6, the turning point in the story of Esther. The turning point. In chapter 6, again, Esther is not even mentioned in chapter 6. Mordecai is nothing but a passive character. God uses a king who cannot fall asleep that night to turn the tables in favor of the Jews. And so let us remember the 2 points that we study. Be faithful. Be faithful in the work that God has given to us. And we will receive the reward that is due to us. Our Jesus, our King, is faithful in giving his reward to us. And number 2, again, church, evil will not prevail. Evil will be exterminated. Therefore, stand firm in the faith. Stand firm in the faith. But let me say this. The story is not over because the edict still stands to destroy the Jews. We have a few chapters left for us to study. And so next week we will continue our study and we will end our study in the book of Esther. And we will see how God will ultimately deliver his people for his glory.